You got it. Okay, you got control of that somehow, and we need to make a note on that. Later today, Thorne, you're going to get an email from Blab that the video is ready.
Okay.
Thorne, later today, you'll get a video from Blab. It'll say your recording is ready. You have to forward that to Allan.
Okay.
Thorne, do you read what I said?
Yeah, I just have to forward it to Allan.
Right, gotcha. I didn't know if you heard me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start in about 2 seconds here. Just let me get my notes organized. We want to welcome everybody watching this program on replay, and thank you for joining us. I'm Steve the Bookman Eisenstein, and this is the Rare Book Cafe, the first and only Blab TV show in the entire world about antiquarian books. Thank you for joining us on Blab.im, the Rare Book Cafe. My regular guests today are Thorne Donnelley of Liberty Books and Felix Owen. I have to enjoin you into that regular guests segment introduction. It's always a pleasure to have you. Later in the program, we'll be talking with my wife Edie about miniature books. We'll also be discussing hidden treasures, which I am going to stay out of today because I think between Thorne and Felix, there's going to be enough. That's for sure. So if you love unusual books, you don't want to miss any of this later. And I don't know, did we ever put you through the 3rd degree, Felix?
No, you
We did.
Oh, we did. All right, so we won't do that again. But stay tuned, because if any of you have questions, the burning idea and the burning question and the big idea is for you. As always, through the miracle of modern technology, visitors to our live show can send text comments. So click away, because we'll be looking for your questions and hopefully be able to answer them. And if between the three of us we can't answer your questions, we should not be on the air. I'll tell you that. And if you want to let us know you're asking a question, type a slash and the letter Q and a space, and that will highlight that you are asking us a question. And if everybody can see the blue bar on the left side of your screen, tell a bird, yes, please click on that now so we can let everybody know through the miracle of modern technology that we are on the air. If you click on the hands that are in front of you at the bottom corner of your screen, that indicates something called props or applause. If you like what the speaker says, we have a bet at the end of the year who has the most applause. I'm joking. We really don't. And if you're new to the program and want to be alerted about other episodes of Rare Book Cafe, be sure to follow us on Blab or Twitter. So let's get into it, guys. Who wants to go first? Felix? Thorne?
Thorne, you go first.
Okay, well, my announcement is actually not so much what I have today, but what I will have for us, I hope, with the limits of technology, next Wednesday. I think Steve knows it's leaving tomorrow. I will be at the Grolier Club in New York City for a 5-day seminar, which is a part of the Rare Book School of the University of Virginia, but they have segments at various areas around the country. They go to the Morgan Library. I've been to one at University of Indiana. They go to the Library of Congress. As far as I know the head lectured at Oxford today, but I don't believe they actually have classes outside the United States of America. At any rate, so I will be there for a week on pretty much a history of 19th and 20th century, 19th and 18th century American books. It's a transition from the letterpress to the mechanical and steam-powered era, which is of interest to me because my family started printing in 1864. Firm dates to them, but my great-grandfather obviously was transitioned in his professional lifetime from an era of letterpress. I'm not exactly sure when in Great Britain the steam presses started taking over. It was all about the 1820s, I think, everywhere, as I remember. So somewhere in that time frame is what we're looking at. And the Grolier Club has a fantastic library. And what I'm hoping to do is I do have the the Blab app on my iPhone, and I think I should be able to. I'm going to have to ask permission. It is a private club, but I'm a member, and I don't see an issue here of being able to go from the library, which is I think pretty much in the second floor somewhere, and actually give us about a 5-minute segment Wednesday afternoon. So
that would be wonderful. That
so
would be
I don't know whether I'm going to turn it into a tourist event, because the ground floor, if you've never been there, is a reception area and then a exhibit area. I'm not sure what's exhibiting right now, but it's always something interesting. And then the top couple floors are reception areas. The library is about a 3-floor library. You know, going through floors it's kind of complicated. You've actually seen it's an old building with a strange staircase going up. So I thought what I would do is try to find, while I'm there, some things that they would not mind, whether it's an exhibit or whatever. I do know that one of the things the club itself is famous for is actually they have, I guess, one of the world's greatest collection of catalogs. And I believe, and again, I'm a very new member, so please take this with a grain of salt, but they seem that they use it for reference and stuff, and they apparently have a great deal of auction catalogs, both the United States and British, going back to the, I'm not exactly sure when auctions started in the book biz, but I think it was in the late
1708.
Yep. So
1708.
A fairly strong setup of that, and I know Steve on his previous radio show that I was trying to listen to while I was doing something else today, he had an auction fellow going, and I have to fight with this every time, as I'm sure Owen does or everybody does. You know, people come in and they have. I got one yesterday, and it was a page printed from Abe.com. I'm not picking on them because there's a lot of people out there. I have a website on them myself, and it was a book that was the Abe book. I mean, the Abe listing was $1,000, and it was, I forget what book it is because I get a lot of people coming in, but it was a $100, $200 book, and yet, you know, people say, well, look, this is a retail price. And to me, in life, book business, what something sells for, trades our hot little hands back and forth, is a value, not what you're asking for. In the United States, I don't know if they have in Ireland, but we have a MSFP, Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price, which is for every automobile. And I don't believe that there's ever been a man in America who's ever paid suggested price for an automobile. Part of the thing is a negotiation. Now, occasionally, when something really special comes out, like the dealer will actually stick on an extra $5 or $10 grand. I understand when the first BMW electric car came out, the expense of the sports car, it's like $150,000, and each dealer was allocated like one of them in America. And I think they all stuck another 20 grand on it. But basically, the point I'm trying to say is auctions, I think, are most important. Obviously, auction reference, I've been reading some books. I guess the heyday of the book business was probably in the late 20s, 1930, when you had both the fantastic sums of money being made around the world, and people, there were some auctions that came up various in Great Britain and America where famous collectors either got smart or passed away or something. And then in the 30s, you also had another set of things. I have catalogs that have prices. I think Steve was mentioning something about the 6 or 8 leaves of a Gutenberg Bible are up for auction right now, and the projected price is 900 grand or something. And what was your price for them, Steve, 20 years ago?
Well, it's no more than 20 years ago. I forgot the name of the famous bookseller, but you could have bought them from one of the booksellers. They were bought from one of the booksellers on the Fifth Avenue group for $150 a page. So $1,200 was the cost of the Book of Esther in 8 leaves. It then sold for $970,000. But now there's a fragment of 18 leaves from a Gutenberg that's going for $2.25 million. You know, that I think that was the way it was. Well, what you're saying about the auction catalogs, when you go to look at that collection of auction catalogs, I suggest Maggs Brothers catalogs from the 1880s or so. You will see, I mean, it's like they're pinups, you know, of books from the 1880s in gorgeous chromolithography. You got to take care of business. That's all right.
No,
gorgeous. I see you're nodding, Felix.
I just remembered something to show you.
18 chromolithography, gorgeous. I mean, I used to love when I found those catalogs.
The catalogs are collectible in their own right, as you know.
Absolutely. I got a few.
I know people who have catalogs going back to almost the beginning. So they're very collectible.
The oldest one I have is 1830. It was an interesting catalog, but obviously all antiquarian books, not illustrated in much of a way. But my earliest one is 1830s. But when I found those mid-1880s Maggs Brothers catalogs, I was in my glory. The illustrations are just beautiful. Absolutely. Thorne, you were saying something. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just get a kick out of this because we all handle some expensive things. I have people always come in and ask me, what's the most expensive book I've got? It varies as it does. And depending on how thuggy he looks, they kind of tell me, yeah, I got one for $20, and then I kind of show him out the door. But the current, I believe, record holder, and I've got it framed on my wall, is the Blab book, which sold the secondary copy from whatever. I bought this
14 million.
Yes. I bought this little volume right here, which is American First Editions by Targ, 1931. And it's a price book with Faulkner's Mosquitoes here for $7. I don't know.
Is that the limited edition of that book?
Well, I don't know. So Henry Cabbage and Kings is $60. But I love their 1931, excuse me, reference to the Blab book. The whole book of Psalms, faithfully translated in Indric metric, Cambridge, 1640. The first book printed in North America, printed by Stephen Day. There are about 8 known copies, although about 1,600 were printed. And for the price, they call it exceedingly valuable. In 1931, they wouldn't give it a quote.
Show me the spine of that book, Thorne. Show the spine on camera. A little lower. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I've got that book. I don't remember what bookseller's copy. It was his personal copy, but it was chock full of ephemera. I loved that book. I was so happy when I got that book. Or did you get that? When did you get that? I'm curious.
I bought this for, I think, $5 at a bookstore near the University of Virginia. I just got it. I was flipping through it, and I got a chuckle out of like, here's John Dos Passos, Three Soldiers, $5 to $6. I just got a kick out of it, and when I flipped to that one, because I bought this I was at Rare Book School about 3 months after that, the Blab book. I just happened to open this book, and there's the fact, this is American First Editions and their prices, 1931. And the Black Archer Press in Chicago. So I guess this was a somewhat standard reference book, and I still believe that something sold at auction for last Tuesday is a good value, except apparently there's a pretty famous story, and I believe it's with 2 collectors for Poe, but it makes no difference, that once you get a couple of major collectors that are trying to buy to fulfill something, and they'll go back against each other for a while. And after a while, I've seen it. I have a doctor of business administration, so I like statistics and I like to see charts and things. And I've seen it a couple of times where you'll have a spike in a particular author, and then once the players get all the books they want, all of a sudden you'll see a lot of those books taking a fairly substantial hit for a number of years. And I'm not trying to dissuade people from investing in books, although that's not what I'm really here for. It's interesting to see when the auction market is good, and yet the ones I love, or I must know at least 20 booksellers. I'm sure you guys have all done it. But sometimes you go to some place like Swan or Christie's or whatever, and they have these lots. And I can understand how it happens, because if you were an associate, my daughter spent one summer as an intern at Christie's, I think. She sent me a picture of her walking down an aisle with a $10 million Picasso. She said, "Daddy, I'll try not to drop it." Cute. When they get a little overstressed, there are people that are very knowledgeable, a lot of booksellers, that can go through those boxes and spot something that the experts at Sotheby's or Heritage or Christie's, or I'm sure you guys have all done it, and I've done a couple little teeny ones. That's kind of the fun of it, because sometimes we do know something more. I mean, I can't imagine how you would. I mean, somebody like Steve or Owen, you guys have this for so long. There's still, what, 1 million or 2 million titles in print right now, let alone the old stuff. And I know Owen has many things that aren't such one of a kind. How would anybody, unless you happen to...
Let me try and work on that, because you said it's a couple of very interesting things. First of all, in older days, the people that subscribed to A.B. Bookman's Weekly, the closer to the mailing point they got it, they had the chance to find the sleepers. Okay, so that kind of fits in. Everybody's looking for sleepers somewhere, and even the biggest companies, I don't care, there's no such thing as perfection in the world. Somebody is inevitably going to make a mistake. But I'll tell you one of the ones that's, it was a story told at the Fob Fair a few years ago. They were at an auction, and it was 1900s trade cloth bindings, those fancy trade cloth bindings. The books were tied up. Nobody opened them. Nobody shook them. The books were tied up. When the people that bought these cloth bindings as a lot got home, most of them were hollowed out, and they were filled with some fairly sophisticated jewelry. If you want to talk about mistakes and things like that, they always happen, obvious, unobvious. There were copies of books. I know a story. There was a Hemingway book that was at a book fair one year, and in the back of the book, we didn't realize, but luckily they were able to keep the book because of things that happened. There were 8 handwritten pages by Hemingway in the back of the book, like the book that I've showed you that wasn't. Look, you and I went through that with the Tennessee Williams sign, or the cat book that I found the 2 months after I had it. I found out there was an inscription on a page I didn't look at. Sure, absolutely. We're all guilty of that from A to Z. And I still think your book is a limited edition, the Archer Press. I love that book. It's a fantastic book.
I just want to jump in a second.
Go ahead, Felix. I was going to invite you if Thorne was done.
Let me explain something about auctions that maybe you overlook and where I have an advantage. The majority of the books that I get don't come through the auctions. It's the old routine of going out on the road. It's the old routine going out on the road, knocking at the door of a monastery or a church, or speak to a vicar and getting the rarities there. Because, unfortunately, this is the case. And in many respects, the internet has distorted the pricing on books. In many respects, and a lot of wonderful small bookstores that have been around for hundreds of years went out of business because the internet destroyed them. The charities, particularly in the world, came in and had books that they were selling them for next to nothing. Lots of the great books I picked up in charity shops, because the charity shops couldn't be bothered to get an expert to come in and determine. A perfect example is about 10 years ago, a dozen years ago actually, I bought 2 first editions of James Bond, Dr. No, and I forget the other one. I think in the second. Anyway, there were 2. I got them for 50 pence. Let's say less than $1 for the 2 on Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas.
On Christmas Eve, I waited 1 week. A friend bought them off me for £15,000, which is about $20,000 for the 2. There were 2 first editions with the jacket. So in many respects, when you talk about an auction is really can also distort the value of something, and only rare exceptions make the huge money. But an auction is not the value of a book, you very well know, and it's where you sell it, who you buy it. There's a lot of institutions that have a budget or an endowment that have to buy books, particularly in a particular field, whether it be religious books or military books, and demand is there, but you have to go out and find them, but they are there. So the internet is a plus in that sense. But I don't buy over the internet for the simple reason that you cannot see the product. You get a few scans. But the old-fashioned detective going out on your feet, knocking at the door, driving to some rural town, going into an antique store, a rundown place, knocking at the nunnery. That's the way to go, because there's great stuff to be found.
Felix,
I gotta believe, Felix. I gotta believe that is also the part of the adventure.
Yes,
certainly for you and for
the excitement of collecting, not what's in the box under the table, which is important in an auction. They tend to know that stuff, so it's rare you get that. You want real gems? Go on the road. There are.
Felix, I agree with you.
Why invite you along? Bring money.
From the day you said you knock on doors, I wish I could do that here. The best that I could do here is send.
Would be fabulous.
Stephen, you need to go to Ireland, hook up with Felix, and you guys head out into the country.
No, it's not just Ireland, because I take my car. I go across to England, I go across to Scotland, I go across to France, I go into Germany. Believe you me, if you go on the road, there's a lot of stuff to be found. And
I totally agree with you.
How about in the old communist countries? Have you ever been? I know you're in Ireland. Have you ever gone to?
Yes.
When the Russia broke up to Lithuania and all those places?
Yes, I have. And there's great stuff to be found in the monasteries. They're desperate for money. There's a lot of great stuff to come out of there.
And the only the Russians didn't destroy it. World War II. I know World War II.
No. People. It's like in Spain when Franco took over and the revolution got. A lot of people went in and took stuff out of the churches and hid them, and a lot of books and stuff disappeared. If you walk in any Rambla in Spain on a Sunday morning, in any small town or village, you'll see wonderful books and antiques. Just out in the street, people just want a few pennies for it. And I have found I have to say, I found more better stuff that way than I would ever do with an auction. I go to an auction if there's an exception piece I want. But in most cases, unfortunately, it's like Sam, you put your shoes on, you're broke, you knock at the door, and you'll find your wife.
I have one last question, and I'll shut up. But you keep referring to going to nunneries, which we don't have a lot of in America. But how do you talk your way into a nunnery?
It's very simple, just charm.
Felix, I envy what you are doing.
Maybe it's a desperate way because they don't see many men. Perhaps it's me, and maybe I look well, I dress well. Maybe the mistake is for a priest. Who cares? The main thing is I come out with the goodies. And that's not the nuts I'm talking about. That's the books I'm on about.
I love it.
Yeah. Felix, I envy what you are able to do, and I mean that from the heart. I agree with you totally. On the road is the place to hunt. We can do that in the States by going up into the back area, not the metropolis areas, but the suburban, the less than suburban areas. Get rural, get aggressive. If I had a game plan to do, I'd pick a rural area that was historically important. I'd take out an advertisement in the local newspaper and say, "Hi, I'm in town to buy books." But in the United States, unfortunately, you can't do that. It doesn't have the European charm.
1 second,
why? In Miami? Maybe in rural areas.
Not in Miami.
An example. I advertise in the local papers here, so I do what's called an antique road for books. So maybe over a 2-week period, I select little towns around here in England. I put a local ad in. You know something? I have to fight them out, keep them outside.
I bet you do.
Because people come with stuff, they have no idea what they have. Oh, grandfather had this. Grandmother's in the family for 100 years. To me, it's brilliant. They might as well be bringing barrels of cash into me. That's how brilliant it is. Now, just to show you an example, for example, this here, You may be not familiar with this, but can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Hangman, I like it already.
It's called The Life and Recollections of Calcraft the Hangman. This was a famous hangman in 1880 in Victoria, England. And this is a series of comics. They're very delicate. And this is the only complete copy in the world that survived. Because as you know, comics didn't survive long. They were used as toilet paper and were tore up. They never survived. And this is the recollections of this hangman who for 40 years would go around on behalf of the government and hang different criminals for stealing bread or maybe books or whatever. But,
Felix, you got to turn your speakers down.
Oh yes, they're very loud. I do apologize.
Yeah, and you're coming up on the microphone. That's the problem.
Can you hear me now?
A little,
Yes.
yeah, but not still echoes. Go down about 5 percentage points, whatever you measure it with.
I have.
Okay.
Should I sit
That's
back
better.
maybe a little further?
No, you're still echoing tremendously in my set. Anybody else's?
Only a little bit.
How about that now?
Much better.
That sounds good.
Much
That sounds good.
Yeah, so this is the type of stuff that's on the road. And this is the type of thing that shows up. Does it sound better now? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine now.
Yes.
The closest
The only problem is I can
experience,
hardly hear you guys now, but that's okay.
the closest experience that I could say that worked successfully using stepping out and going on an adventure was around New York. I did seminars in every library in Nassau and Suffolk County when I was up there. That yielded the kind of treasures that you're talking about.
Yes.
But it's very tough unless you're in a rural area. I wish we had that.
Look at the excitement. Look at the people you meet. Look at the experience. It's all about. Look, I can see 100 people and get garbage, right? But I can see one come in with a piece of gold to me, a book, and I'm like, a person wandered into me after 100 other people came in. He held in his hand a book of hours. He didn't even know what a book of hours was. I sat there on the table. I tell you what, it was my birthday 60 times over. That's how great it was. It was brilliant. and that's the difference. That was treasure. And he knew nothing about that. It was all on skin. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was the creme de la creme of what I'd done. It made my year.
Yeah.
And so I always encourage people, particularly in this business, the auctions are one source, but they're not the only source.
Sure.
It's people. There's a lot of great stuff. A lot of Europeans went to America. A lot of great European families from Ireland, England, Germany, all over Europe, all over the world came to America in the 1880s or the Civil War period prior to that, or the 1700s. They brought books with them. They brought Bibles with them. They're in the homestead. They're in rural farms. They don't know what's there. So America is equally as rich as we are here. And you know, an early example is another example is this. Do you see this here? Now this looks like a piece of shit, right? When you look at it, with all due respect, excuse my language.
So you see the title page.
But this is an early Coptic Christian Bible, right?
Interesting.
Oh my! Wow!
Now,
Look at that.
Now this was brought into me. Now, as you know, the Coptic Christians precede the Christianity. 1 second, in every sense of the word. But this was all hand done on original paper from the 15th century. But it's Coptic Christians. It's in there. You'll find them in there towards the back, and then we'll show them. Yeah, but this is the type of stuff that's out there. So you don't need Europe that. You're very welcome if you do come. But there's a lot of great stuff in rural America that European families brought over. And that's the great about the hunt. You'll see the illustration.
Oh my!
Look at that. You can see.
The hunt is the thing.
But anyone's familiar with early Bibles and early Christianity, the Coptics were the Christian religion. They're the oldest Christian branch of religion. And then out of that, the Roman Church formed. But the Coptics still survive in Ethiopia and Egypt. Yes. And that's the point. But it's handwritten, so it's a one-off. There are no other copies.
Wow.
And that's the thing about it. And yet some of the art is quite primitive in it. For example.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
Wow.
The Crusades.
Yeah, this is Saint George the Dragon. So that's a symbol of Christianity. Yes, the script is Arabic, but it's Coptic. That's the difference. And people think Arabs, being Islam, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of richness and cultures here. But a lot of great families and a lot of great people, normal people, poor people, they took their prized books with them. A book they could take and read because they're shipped maybe took 2 hours to travel. No, sorry, 2 years to travel. So they brought great books, and there was great finds to be found in the States. Unless you want me to come over, and I'll do the knocking at the door.
Auction service got a fair price.
And and people say auctions get a fair price. I disagree with that. I bought stuff at an auction that I thought were a giveaway. Some of the auctions couldn't even catalogue the books they put up. They should be ashamed of themselves. And auctions of undervalued books deliberately, they're only interested in a sale. And particularly rural auctions can be a problem. International auctions can be a problem as well. It's who's there on the day to buy the particular item, as you very well know. And when I get something, I'm meticulously fair about the books and its values. But sometimes in the auctions is not really a reflection of a book. Yes, you had the exception with the 14 million paid for the Bay Palms, and you quoted the price earlier. But the market's gone crazy because it's the only one that's come up. Similar, if I put my Tyndale up, it would do the same thing. It would go crazy because the baseline would be the 14 million. But that's the oddity. It's like great art, Picasso or whatever. It goes. You think who'd pay 100 million for a piece of art? But geez, they do. Look at the stamp, a little stamp. A rare Jenny, which is the famous upside down plain one. I mean, it's just a colored piece of paper.
The British piano.
So it boils down. Another example, which of course you're going to like this one. This is a book that was given to Bette Davis. She asked for this book particularly to make a movie, and the name of the book is The Evangelicus, as you can see. Can you see that?
Yes.
And inside is a letter from MGM saying that Betty wanted the book. She was interested in the novel because she wanted to make a movie of it. All signed, sealed from the publisher in New York.
Wow.
Do you follow?
Wow. Uh-huh.
And this is the property written here of the literary department of William Morris Agency in New York City. But this is the type of thing I wander into a house and just find. They didn't even know they had it. They hadn't a clue. When I said Bette Davis, he looked at me as I had two heads. So there is great stuff to be found. And we have the knowledge. The thing is, we have the knowledge. We have the advantage. Do we educate people to come along? That's debatable. Do I go in and say, oh, wait a minute, you got this and that? I'm there to do business. I do find good stuff, but you have to go on the road to get it.
I got to say this, though, because my feeling on this is if I am invited in, and this is, I'm not to contradict or anything. Everybody's got a system for it. If I go to an open sale and they have made a mistake, then I will capitalize on that mistake. If somebody calls me because of something I wrote or that they read that I wrote or heard me or whatever, then I will pay them what would be considered a fair price against that. It depends on what the book is and what my knowledge of it is. But I want to, I prefer to, for seminars and things like that, to inform people. Ethical associations you belong to, you could be brought up on charges if you do something like that. If somebody came up to me and I bought an F. Scott Fitzgerald's Great Gatsby, I'm echoing too much.
Yes, you are.
Wait. How now?
Still
better? Yeah. Better? All right, I'm down to 0. That's good. Okay. So if I meet somebody $2,000 for a $377,000 book, I could be brought up on expert charges and righteously so.
Yeah,
There's something very delayed.
Yeah, there seems to be some interference. Steve, just a point. For example, some of the auction houses I bought stuff up over the many years have miscatalogued a book, and particularly Bibles, and that's a subject that I'm very familiar with. But they've miscatalogued it because they didn't have the title page. But the title page is not an indication of their stupidity, because if they know the stuff, they employ a book expert. He should decipher what year the Bible is, whether it has a title page or doesn't have a title page. And the other thing, of course, as you very well know, is the technology of putting the false page within a book, which should be catalogued. I love the cat. Which should be catalogued correctly.
The other one.
And this is important. But I have read catalogs and I have called the auction house and corrected their mistakes when they were even selling stuff, and because I was familiar and I wanted it correct, and so when they have a team of experts, this is a disadvantage to people who trusted the auctioneer to give the best service and provide this. But sometimes they're wanting, to be fair. Some of them are wanting and not as up on the information they should be. Or maybe they're not hiring a more person who's more informed on a particular subject, whether it's early travel books or Bibles or sports books or whatever. And the other big issue over here in Ireland is false signatures on books, which inflates the price, as you very well know. For example, I recently went to an auction here, and they had Gone with the Wind, first edition. Fantastic. They had a sloppy Margaret Mitchell signature on it. And I said to the auctioneer, why are you saying this is Margaret Mitchell? Have you something to prove this? He said, no, he said. It was written in Biro, for God's sake. It wasn't even around then. But someone had scrawled her name, and the auction was selling it without correcting it, because it couldn't be her, because the Biro didn't even exist. But this is the point, but that inflates the price. And then when the person buys that, they're in for a surprise, because when they bring it to someone like me or someone else, we're going to have a laugh. And the same with the James Bond books or anything else. Signatures are a big problem on the internet, as you know. People claiming it's this and that and signed, and it's not. So where do you go to get authentic information on this? The auction house are wanting in this in a lot of ways because they're very vague about it.
There are places you can go for that information. There are various experts around the country that you pay a fee and you have it certified. I'm now taking the AIS courses for the Appraisal International Society. The standards are just so strict. If you want to deal with something like that, appraising or authentication, you've got to go to very reputable places. And even like you were saying before, auction houses make mistakes. It's a different kind of mistake that the auction house makes than, you expect them occasionally to make a mistake. One of the biggest mistakes they make all the time is in pre-auction estimates. I mean, how many times are they multiply exceeded? But, it gets complicated in that issue. The thing that we hope always, though, is that when someone is makes the offer and they're called in as an expert, you use the core standards of an AIS or something like that, and you present what is the fair market value for that particular item in the market that you're in.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. But I take the view of an auction is a professional auction. I'm sorry, I don't allow for the fact that they make mistakes. It's something they shouldn't do. And
usually it's to your advantage.
The value. It does affect the trust of people who entrust their treasures to these people. I mean, the auction takes a fee for this, so it has a duty of care to the consumer or to their client or to us who buy it. And the market is very important. It's like going to a doctor. We trust our doctor to do the operation he's consigned to do. If he's incompetent, I'm dead. So there's no excuse for that. So if I go to an auction and an auction values a book and it misrepresents it, and I have told them they misrepresent, they do nothing about it, that's gross negligence. That's just wrong. Because
that I agree with you on.
There's a loss for that.
Totally agree with you on that part of it, Felix. there's another aspect. Sometimes they make the mistake and it goes against them. They cataloged it thinking it was something else.
Yes.
And it's really the right thing.
At the wrong edition.
What I'm saying is,
edition.
if it's, they will there's two kinds of mistake they will make. Many kinds, but the mistake you're talking about is inaccurate cataloging and saying something that it is what it isn't. But the exact opposite of that happens too at auctions, and that's where it hurts them. And that is, they say it's not the edition, but it really is the true first edition, and they're selling it on the cheap. So, I mean, don't misunderstand me. I agree with what you're saying on that.
Yeah, but I think the internet. My biggest issue is, as you know, with anyone, you guys as well, I'm sure you come across it, is the signature on the book can be very controversial because, you have to kind of step back. No matter how great the signature, whether it's Hemingway's signature or whoever it is, or Clark Gable's, you have to step back and say, 1 second now, I'm looking at the book first, and then you look at the signature and think, am I an expert to say this is the book? That is a problem, you should know. Thorne, you're going to say something? Or you're munching. I do apologize.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Somebody, hold on a second, Henry. Hold on a second. Somebody just wrote in a marginal comment here. Let me relay it to the audience and to who's writing. Also checking the value of the complete works of Joseph Conrad, the Canterbury edition, all 26 volumes. Is that the one where he signed?
Earlier, Henry also said he had a set of books that are Shakespeare, 1807.
That I can't venture. I'd rather have Felix talk about that one, but I'll tell you what, the complete works of Joseph Conrad, the Canterbury edition, is it signed?
A great point to raise about Joseph Conrad. I love his books, first of all, and I've had all of Joseph Conrad's first editions. In addition, I had all his bank checks signed by him, which I've had for a very long time, and I've had manuscripts this man has done. And there's a wonderful society in London, the Joseph Conrad Society, for stuff. But these editions are special editions done, so they're like a special, a memorial edition, if you wish, to honor his works, much like Charles Dickens comes in different collections. So, of course, they attract value. As you very well know, it's condition, the state, what's missing, what's there, are the volumes complete. They are important, but the really value, as you very well know, is strict first editions of each book that was printed. The Heart of Africa, for example, one of his great ones, or there was quite a few others. But the value of a collection like that is hard to know without seeing anything. You can't really put dollars or cents on it because I haven't seen no scans. I can't even give an educated guess. That's your people in America would be more familiar with this than I would be. But I know Joseph Conrad's first editions fetch very, very, very good money. Not memorial editions, there's a distinction. Or limited editions, is not the same as first edition. There's a difference.
This set, this Conrad set, if I'm thinking it's the right set, it's a set that's one of 100. It was done just before he died. And it's got, I agree with you. Most works of most authors, especially from that time period, unless they're beautifully bound or, fine pressed. But I've had this set before. And when I had it, it was worth a couple of $1,000, if I'm not mistaken. No. And that was 30, 40 years ago.
You're right, because I think they're limited to 100 copies of this done. And I'm not sure whether they were signed. I'm not sure. But I think because they're a very small thing, I would think if the binding is good, not having seen anything, I think 1,500, maybe a little more, a little less. But it would depend on the uniqueness, the damage, assuming they're in good condition. Because the binding is everything, as you very well know. The binding determines the value. But they're very selective because I believe there was only 100 editions done of that particular. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm open to corrections, please.
No, it is. We're both on the same page. And if I'm not mistaken, it was just before he died. If I'm not mistaken about that, I think I think he signed the preliminaries before he died.
Well, then there's a history with it. $1,500, $2,000, depending on condition. Dollars, not euro. Euro money, I have to watch carefully. Not as good as the dollar.
Listen, we are at 3:17, and my wife is looking at me like she would like to join the program on the Miniature Book Corner. So I am going to step out for a minute. I am going to give the microphone to her, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Felix. Felix is always a man. I don't drink much, but I want to sit down in a bar with you one night. You have whatever you drink. I want my vodka, and let's talk.
I'm not sure.
Hold on. I'll see you guys in a few.
Is that the dress they wear in Miami?
That's Miami Beach uniform.
It's wonderful. I think if you did that, you wore them in Ireland, they might arrest you.
Hello, hello.
As well they should.
Yes.
How are you, Felix?
Nice to see you there.
That's good to be seen. Okay, miniature books. Here we go. The first thing that I have is a Gettysburg Address.
Yes.
Now, the Gettysburg, this particular one was done, I'll tell you. There are 100 copies of this that were done in 1963 for Glenn Dawson by William M. Cheney. Now, where I got it, I don't remember. But they're online, gold gild on the spine, obviously a miniature book, and Stephen said I should start to get a handle on what they're worth, and that one goes for about $100 now. This, I have no idea where I got it, but it's on Fort Union. It says, can you see it? Fort Union.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what it says is it's a complete tiny book, Fort Union in miniature, by Robert M. Utley. It's all hand set, it's all hand bound, and is Stagecoach Press edition. So I looked it up, and sure enough, here it was in like a little cloth binding.
Hold it up there. Keep it there.
Okay,
I can hardly see it. She moved it so quickly.
Yes. Hold it there and count to 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's signed, and it's a
Very
limited. Nice. And also, I found it online, and this is also worth about $100 in this little plastic case that it was issued in. I don't remember where I got it, but the story's on the back. And there you have that one. This is called The Little Old Woman of X. And the only thing that I could see on it were 2 copies in museums, one in Toronto and one in England, Felix.
Yes. Do you know the dress? Do you know the nationality of the dress you're looking at?
No.
That's a Welsh woman. That's Welsh dress. Welsh.
Oh.
From Wales.
Thank you.
Just so you know.
Thank you very much. And it's
So
a cute little
is that a
book.
classic image?
Yes.
Felix, is that a classic image?
Of the period of 1700, 1800. That's a rural Welsh woman.
Okay.
And there's no spine.
No binding.
But the front board and back board are held together with pieces of twine.
Yes.
And it's really bigger than a miniature, as you can see.
Yeah.
Miniature, this book.
Yes.
But I saw it and it appealed to me, so I got it. The other thing,
as you do with everything that you acquire.
that I acquire, and that's the truth. This is a silver book with a spine, front and rear.
Hold the spine closer.
But
hold the spine closer. and hold it very still.
10 seconds. Very nice, yes.
Very nice, yes.
Now, in one side it opens up,
Yes,
and there's a double side.
yes.
And were those two things bigger, I would say that it was for stamps,
Excuse me.
but it's too small for stamps.
No, one
And the
second.
other side opens up.
Is there any stamps in it? Any silver mark
Not that I see.
on the spine?
Let me look.
I don't see any hallmarks
You
whatsoever.
need a magnifying glass to look at it. You'll probably find those hallmarks in subdescription. Do Americans
Remember, I talked about my frog.
stamps
Here's a
with
frog.
silver and gold? Do you know, Thorne? Do Americans hallmark the silver?
Let me look.
Do Americans hallmark silver?
No. Well, yeah, there's
Some
stamps.
do.
Some do. Wait,
Some do,
I'll
right.
tell you if it's European.
But I got that because it was in the shape of a book and it was old.
Yeah.
But as I say, I've seen those where they're for stamps that people
Yes.
will have them to hold them.
This is
But-
for stamps on one side. You can see the size of the boxes.
Okay.
2 stamp boxes.
Yeah. I thought there'd be stamps on it. Yeah.
Yeah. But the
if
stamps
you get
look-
a glass and look up the stamp, you get a better valuation and you get the exact year it was manufactured.
That would fit in that.
Yeah.
And of course, somebody made it on a bezel so that you could wear it around your neck.
Yeah. Is there a pencil at the binding end of it? Does
A
one end
pencil.
come out with a pencil? Like if you go to the end of the binding, is there anything that pulls out?
Nothing pulls
Yeah,
out.
because sometimes, as you know, they used to put the pencil in with a silver top in for making notes or whatever.
It didn't have any opening. It didn't have anything.
Yeah.
But like everything else. So there I am with my miniature books.
Yeah.
And
Fine.
Felix, I love you.
Oh,
I-
thank you very much. And
I-
I don't even know your first name. I mean, imagine we're talking to each other. We haven't been introduced. What's your first name?
My name is Edie.
Edie.
We are Steve and Edie. And if you are old enough to remember Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet,
Yeah.
we also collect things by them. But no,
Of course you do.
Ah,
This
Ooh,
is in
what
bad
is-
shape, but this is from 1790. This
Oh,
is
wow.
a hymn book of the Methodist Church.
oh, how nice.
And
You're,
you can see,
I
look at
would
this wonderful-
love.
Look at this wonderful collapsed binding
Oh, wow.
on it. It
Oh,
is
my.
absolutely
I
beautiful.
would love to.
Hold it-
I would
hold it
love
up
to do a
higher.
tour of your house.
Hold it up higher. That's good. Right there, right there.
See the claps?
Perfect.
Aren't they,
Yes.
aren't they beautiful?
Yes.
It's the
They're
Yes, they
original
are.
binding.
magnificent.
And of course,
All right. Felix, are you going to work?
we also got.
Felix, are you going to work on that book? On
Yes, I am.
restoring that book?
You're going to restore it. Hold on. I'm going to give you back to Steve.
There's another one.
Oh, my. Here, Steve. He's showing binding.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
Days of
No, not
non-miniature.
Heavenly Dew.
Drops of Heavenly Dew. Little
Yeah.
Snake.
Drops of Heavenly Dew.
Very nice. 1820. And of course, this little one is the Gospel.
Oh, my goodness. Look at that.
in the spirit of breath somewhere. No, I didn't.
Complete. Just his finger size is fantastic, isn't it?
What's in it? What? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Now I recognize. Okay.
Yeah. So I have like your like Edie. I have a lot of miniature books, quite a lot. I've maybe got 100 because I love them also. Very small little books. I think they're very, very important.
One day I'll move this screen, or somehow I can't move the collection, but somewhere back over there, that whole middle shelf is nothing but miniature books. There's probably over 1,000 of them there. We're running out of room in that section.
And I just go and pick 3 or 4
Yeah,
to show.
yeah. We'll never run out of material. Oh, this has been a great session. I'm about to send a message. Look it up on AdAll is what I was going to say.
Right.
I'm just trying to catch up if there's anything that I missed on small or the electronic ones. Okay, no. What else? What else would you like to say, Thorne or Felix?
Well, I'm going to show you some other stuff.
Tom, what's your question?
Tom has a question.
This is about Utah, this book, about the Mormons. And the book is it's signed by the author, and it's an expose of the Mormons in 1872, first edition.
Oh my. Expose of polygamy.
Shame.
in Utah, but it's an early Mormon book on the Mormonism in 1872. Again, I found this by accident when I bought a whole lot of other books, and so there's good trade when maybe Irish returning to Ireland bring stuff back or whatever. But it is a lovely book. Mrs. Stenhouse. Oh yeah, and another one is The Dialogue of the Dead, which I think is a lovely title for a book.
Beautiful.
And this is to illustrate, when you do knock at doors, there is stuff to be found, always.
Felix, you found the Jackie Kennedy letters. You don't have to say that again. I just love what you do from the heart and soul, my friend.
And this is the state papers after your independence in 1776 about the United States. This was published in 1776 in England, talking about what was going on and why America wanted independence, this book. And so this is the state papers pertaining to the formation of the United States. So it's become very, very important. And this was report was brought together in front of Parliament in England to talk about independence for the United States. It's a wonderful thing. And then, of course, there's another one. Wandering Early Travel Books of South America, 1828, is very, very unusual, as you can see. I couldn't figure out who this person was. This illustration looks like some sort of an explorer, but there's it's rather unusual illustration.
It's like he's looking at the yak or the Yeti.
Well, yes, I thought the same thing. I thought very strange. It's known as a nondescript. I don't know what a nondescript is. I have no idea what the nondescript is.
I know what the word means, but I'm not sure how. I haven't seen the book enough to apply it.
Yeah, but it's almost a cross between an ape. I mean, I'm not being insulting. I'm just saying it's a very unusual illustration.
It's either, well, wait, you're talking about South America or South Pole?
No, South America. This is South
America.
Then
it looks like
including the northwest of the United States. Maybe it's an early shot of Yeti.
Yeah,
in the state of Oregon, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's just strange, but this book was written in 1812 for the travels in 1812. So it's a very early travel book within the United States, particularly over in the northwest, which would be Oregon, Washington State, isn't it? Washington State, Oregon, Northern California, but most of those states weren't formed then. I don't know what they were called, whether just the West or I'm
Territory.
Not sure.
Northwest Territories.
What they were called or whatever.
Tom, welcome.
Yeah. No, that's just politics. That doesn't matter. That's registered. Oh, yeah, and early children's books, as you know, very collectible.
Oh,
First
yeah.
edition, with the jacket.
Wow.
Again, it's the type of thing I want to knock at the door. It's in with a whole lot of other rubbish books. I picked this up, but the value is the jacket, not the book. It's the first edition.
Is it the limited? Is it the signed or just the first edition?
It's the first edition with the jacket.
No, I understand the jacket. I was asking if it was signed. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then, of course, I have early maps of Europe and early maps of the United States. I have early maps of the United States going back to 1701, 1702. Yeah, I have early maps which we must show you, particularly of California and Mexico, because California was part of.
Show us what you have on the East Coast. It stands a better chance. Tom, did you want to jump in with something for a couple of minutes here?
I have a question that I'm hoping you guys can shed some light on.
Sure.
I have two books here that are
I'm reasonably sure of very minimal value, but they're of interest to me. As an attorney by training, I've got these leather-bound books, and it says...
Get my law book from 1500.
What year?
Blackstone.
This one there.
What year, Tom?
I believe it was 1913. Here's the title page. It was printed in Philadelphia.
Is that by Blacksmith? Blackstone, is it?
Blackstone.
Yeah,
Blackstone's commentary.
Blackstone published books came out every single year from 1700 and something. So every single year they updated the law books. They're a great publishing house in London. And they're the standard of law, of jurisprudence in the United States and England and Ireland. Very important. So that's the cornerstone of most of the collections of the period in which it was published. But
exactly.
Not a lot of value.
And that's why I picked it up. It's in 2 volumes, which means he's actually published originally in 4 volumes. So this says volume 1 is books 1 and 2, and this volume 2 is books 3 and 4. And like I said, I'm pretty sure they're of minimal value, but they're of particular interest to me because you're absolutely correct, Felix, that these are the fundamental rule of law documents that explain the law that came over from England in order to create the American jurisprudential
What edition,
systems.
Felix? Is that the first?
this is the first law book published in 1550, which is Justin law, which is the basis of all law within Europe, of the Justin law, jurisprudence. And this is the only complete copy.
Yeah, that's excellent.
You should start a catalog, Felix.
But the year of this is 1565, and this is complete. It's the only one. It's the only one in existence. This is the foundation for the wonderful Blackstone books, which are a great series and highly collectible of Blackstones. In addition, because of the case law in each of them is different and unique to each one, and any lawyer worth his salt would have Blackstone editions and collect them and have them to go back in case law that he needs with the court going back to 1800, whatever. So they're usually collectible because you paid great homage to English law almost up to now, really, in a sense. And Blackstone was the center of it. And hence United States law then formulated and improved upon it.
So I would gather that these 2 volumes that I have are of minimal value for a couple of reasons. One is for all the reasons you're saying. But also, I picked it up at a bookstore in Annapolis, which sadly has since closed, Annapolis, Maryland, when I was back there on a trip, for, if I recall, tens of dollars, $20, $30. It was not anything expensive. But, you never know sometimes. With such experts here, I thought, let me just show them to you and get at least some opinion about them.
What's the other? But they come out in this series, and the wonderful people have them, they're missing particular years. So some years are far more valuable than an average year if you follow. And many people, for example, have 100, but might be missing year, say 1890, 1901, 1915. So they need them, and they become valuable in their own right. It's like collecting sports cards. You have 100, but you look for the greats, the ones that you want to fill the collection.
Felix,
but every lawyer should have them in his office. Every lawyer should have Blackstone in his back shelf. They have to quote the law as well as the state law, and then go forward.
Felix, you have a request from the audience to hold up that law book again.
Could you show me that
one
law?
You just showed us.
It's 1565.
No, show it. There's somebody that's watching us, that's instant messaging us, that would like to see the book again. While you're doing that, I'll tell you, you should issue a catalog of only known copies of books. I think you've got a catalog in your house of that. God, unbelievable. Yes. You're welcome. Mentor to mentor, you're welcome. Thank you.
This book is in Latin. All law was done in Latin. And Justin law is the Emperor Justine, who formulates the basis of law. I'm not talking about the English law of King John, who done the Magna Carta. This predates this. Mind, this book was published then, but this is the collection of the law at the time that Justine put together to control the Roman Empire at the time, because it was worked on the basis of law. So law had to be set down to what was done. But this is the early example of it. Mind you, I have a big folio down here, another 50 years older than this, which is it's about 2 foot long. It's quite big, but this is unique. And there are many
it would be.
In the Italian libraries. This is the only one with illustrations. And the Italians didn't realize the books that they had in their library, from what they told me, had no illustrations. Somebody cut them out over the years. But this one is complete with its illustrations in it.
Felix, you make a very important point about those books being in Latin. Now, keep in mind, in that era, there were very few literate people across the population. And those who were learned Latin. And so in the clergy or in the aristocracy, you learned Latin. And, of course, everything was then written and communicated in Latin, in what we now call the English-speaking world, at least. But, those are fascinating books. And I agree with you. This is why this version of Blackstone's is in my collection, because I'm a lawyer and I refer to it. And it's an interesting read. But I'm going to jump out, guys.
No, 1 second, just before you go. Another assumption about Latin, and priests used to speak Latin, but very few priests could read the Bible, even though they spoke Latin. And hence the English Bible came around because of this, because many priests were actually illiterate. They may be priests in name, and that's it. But in actual fact, very few could read Latin. And Latin was the language of the church and the law and everything else, and few could. And that's what also brought on the Reformation in England, to get the stuff done in English, so the average English person could go and understand what's being said in their own language. And so we moved away from that.
Okay, Felix, appreciate all your wisdom that you shared today. Gentlemen, thanks for letting me in real quick.
A pleasure. Anytime you want to join us, please do.
Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you. I didn't even get the gentleman's first name. Tom.
Take care, Tom. I'm going to clock you out. All right, guys. It is close to that time where we want to put it to a wrap.
Okay.
And Felix, as always, gosh, you make the show. You know, I have a radio program. If we could ever figure out how to get you on Skype, you could absolutely join us. We can't show as much, but the conversation.
I have Skype here. I have Skype. I Skype to friends in the States almost weekly.
Okay. Well, we'd love to join us.
Felix, we saw your message earlier that said, yes, we have Skype in Ireland.
Of course.
Yeah, no, I know you do. We'll talk about that. We're emailing now on a regular basis.
We are a bit more sophisticated. We don't look it, but we are.
Well, guys, audience, I really want to thank everybody for joining us today. For those of you who are listening, I address this to you. We are experienced book dealers. What we really want to do is answer the inexperienced person's question. If you have an old book in your house and you're listening to this program, by all means, by next Wednesday at 3:30 or next Saturday at 2:30, learn how to use the system. Join us either in the instant messaging or join us on camera. And please, if you have a book, have it in front of you. It's hard to describe the book when you say it's green in 1880. Yes. You need the book in front of you, okay? And I want to thank everybody for joining us, and join us again next week when we will answer your questions and answers. And just because we always cross-promote, we also have a program called Bucks on the Bookshelf on WDBFradio.com, which precedes this program from noon to 2. And we hope you join us for the whole 3 hours. We got a half hour in between shows. I have to change my costume from time to time. And we'll talk to you during that time. I'm going to wear my tuxedo next time you're on, okay? You make me feel half dressed, but I used to have to dress up 18 times a day as an entertainment director. Well, that's kind of the news we have today, ladies and gentlemen. Join us on Wednesday at 3:30 for the next episode of Blab at the Rare Book Cafe. And I've got to say this, I can't hear you and make an announcement at the same time. Okay. It's very hard. I'm
putting anytime she likes.
Yeah. And so join us for the next episode of the Rare Book Cafe on Blab.im. That's Blab.im. And join me on WDBFradio.com for Bucks on the Bookshelf from noon to 2. The Rare Book Cafe is brought to you by the Florida Antiquarian Book Dealers Association and Book Fair, celebrating 35 years of book selling in March 2016 when we have the event at the Coliseum in St. Petersburg. If you have not made your reservations yet, you might be in trouble. So please, there's a very busy week in St. Pete that week. And the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair features more than 100 book dealers from all over the country. And for book lovers and booksellers, it's paradise. Happy book sales to you till we meet again. May all your books be rare. Thanks, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao, everybody.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Felix.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Steve.
Bye-bye, Felix. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
And thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Anytime. Ciao.